Thanks for downloading this episode from Teachers Talk Radio. You can find the full schedule and listen back to all our shows at ttradio.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Hello. Well, the swap is round because you know what's coming in a little bit.
Good evening, everybody. It's The Late Show with a mildly already hysterical Hannah and Lucy. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you all. It is very much sort of, for those of you watching visually, it is kind of sort of business on the top for me and definitely not on the bottom. We are pajamaed on the bottom. Hannah is looking very cozy herself. So
we are in November now. It is official. Heating is on. Udi is on. I'm good. Yeah.
I've just realised that I've made a grave error in my tea choice this evening because this is actually nighttime tea. So if I suddenly, I don't think I will doze off in a show because we've got a lot to talk about. But if I suddenly sort of get a bit droopy, you know why? Because I made the wrong choice.
Lose you halfway through for a nap.
I'm when am I not all over the show? You know, I feel like the ADHD is ADHDing at the moment. So yeah, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm in that weird stage where obviously I've handed in my notice and am leaving my school, and I've had a few weeks of the kids finding out somebody let slip quite early doors a couple of weeks ago. So I had to tell my year 11s, and I thought it was then going to filter through, and it didn't. But the year 10s found out today, and they were like, "Miss, are you going?" And I had to tell them. So it's just one of those. It's kind of different kids finding out on different days, and trying to explain it to them is quite full on. But I had some good news this week. After the last 2 years, and actually the reason that I joined Teacher Talk Radio was because I started my level 7 apprenticeship, and part of that I had to record 6 hours of off-the-job training every week, which included listening to podcasts and reading books. And then I listened and became a host at Teacher Talk Radio. So the whole reason I ended up in this here, I got my results and I got distinctions across the board. Woohoo! Which, like, I was literally like, I think I'll pass, but if I'm get a merit, I'll be well chuffed, and I feel like that would have been, I'd have scraped that, and I'll be proud of it. So I never in a million years imagined I was going to get distinction. So I'm well chuffed.
I mean, Hannah, you know, as I kind of say every week, I sort of learn something about you. I don't think you've ever half-assed anything in your life, to be honest. I get the impression from you that it's kind of everything or nothing.
I don't know, a lot of those assignments were kind of hyper fixating one weekend, like all a Saturday, all a Sunday. Like there's a new tonic drink, which is like a less sugary kind of Red Bully type thing. And like I drink one of those and just get to it all in one go. That's just who I am. I get all the research and do all the stuff. And then I just hyper focus and do it. And I kind of roughly know what I'm going to do. And so I start like doing shows around those topics and talking about it. So I obviously like get in the zone and get in the mood, and then when I get there, I just then hyperfixate. So if anybody's out there doing their level 7 apprenticeship and are listening and putting this down as their off the job training, I know how painful that is to do. Then maybe you want to become a host and you can use it to help you. And I quoted myself quite a lot, which is quite entertaining. Well, reference myself, should I say? Reference the shows, which is quite, because they're all anonymous, so they don't know that you're referencing yourself. But yeah. Oh, thank you, JBL, for saying congratulations. Thank you very much.
No, great stuff, Hannah. And, doing it alongside kind of, working full time and everything else, it's no mean feat, because every time I think to myself, should I do a master's again? Should I do a second master's? I just think, no, you have a hard enough time actually doing your job. Let's not overwhelm ourselves. So, power to you.
Well, that's the thing. Today I officially put my application in to do my MBA in January. So, yeah.
That's your next trick?
Yeah. Well, it's a partnership with the apprenticeship. You do the apprenticeship, but then you do the masters afterwards. But a lot of people are taking because you can take 2 years to start it. So everyone else is taking a rest. I'm like, nope, I need to keep going, otherwise I won't ever get to it. I know how this ADHD thing works. Do it now or never do it. So yeah.
Once you got to commit to the bit always. No, I know what that's like, and I'm on the hunt for my motivation again at the moment. It's and it's inspirational listening to you and listening to all the things you're doing, and I just I'm on the comeback, I think, at the moment. It's sort of starting to happen. But my sort of lovely thing of the day is there was a football tournament at the school I'm doing some cover work at the moment, and I saw some of my old students, and one of my old students from last year, who, when she first joined, was going through a lot, clearly, and she was difficult to work with, and we very much got off on the wrong foot, and it was a bit of a kind of battle for the first sort of term and a half, maybe even 2 terms. And I know teachers say they don't have favorites, but by the end she was it. And when she saw me today, she cried, and I was like, oh God, I've got to keep it together, because if you cry, I'll cry, and then it's... But yeah, so to see her just she's a tough cookie. She just crumbled, and I that meant a lot, because we didn't always see eye to eye.
They're the ones that stick with you, though, aren't they?
Yeah. Right. Moving. Oh, we need to do some life admin before I forget about it. And Hannah's covered up her lovely face. We still continue to have John Catt Educational as our sponsor. We still have that lovely discount code JCTTR2425, which gives you 20% off the entire website. Now, it's winter, it's cold, it's very much cozy reading vibes. So this is the excuse I'm giving you this week to use this discount code. You need something, that whole kind of autumn aesthetic that's all over Instagram and Pinterest, the kind of those book nooks, all of that. Blankets, hot drink of choice, not nighttime tea when you're trying to concentrate. But yeah, that's why you need to pay John Catt a visit and make use of that discount. So that is still there for you. Go, 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 go. Okay. Any other life admin before we can move on?
No, I think I'm there.
I think we're there. Right, I'm going to put my tea down. Okay, so Hannah, what did we decide to chat about this week?
We decided to talk about the skills that you gain from being a teacher, but only from teaching, and things that the positives that you can take into other parts of your life, but the things that you would have kind of never realized or wouldn't normally do if you're in a normal job. These can be fun or serious ones. So if anybody wants to message in and give us theirs, then they can do. But that kind of, what have we become that we wouldn't have been before if we hadn't chosen this career?
Through this career, what have we become? Deeply deranged. No.
We've developed a brilliant sense of humours.
Yes, a deeply dark sense of humour for sure. To kick off, I had to think about this. And I'm going to start silly, because why not? The ability to hold in a wee. And I don't know. I mean, is this useful? No, not really. Has this backfired on me? Absolutely. Not that I wet myself, quite the opposite. Fortunately, this has only happened to me once, but I did end up a few years back getting an incredibly bad UTI. And I'll never forget, I was curled up in my chair in my classroom. I was grey, clearly not very well. The head teacher of the particular school, which of course shall remain nameless, came to see me and said, "Oh, do you think you can just push through the rest of the afternoon?" And there was another teacher in the room who I think just looked at her and went, "You're kidding, look at her. She can't even stand up straight." So while in many ways it is a talent to be able to hold one's bladder, I absolutely don't advise it, because it can end quite badly. And I had to take very strong antibiotics for a while to clear that up. So life skill, maybe, but an ill-advised one.
I thought when you put that in the chat about like that, I thought you were just joking. No, we're starting and going straight for the UTI at the start.
We're committing to the bit as always.
This is what you get from Lucy.
Have I already lowered the tone?
No, it's fine. Well, I'll give my life story because so when I was born, I had kidney problems, and I was like, is it yellow and jaundice and stuff? And one of my kidneys is smaller than the other, and I was actually put on the kidney transplant because like one of them wasn't working properly. And like, but then it started working. But obviously, I used to have to go a lot more than the others. So the fact that now I can last a whole day at school without having to go is I have, through teaching, I have retrained my kidneys to work properly.
But do you drink a lot of water or no? Because I don't understand how a whole day is quite.
Yeah, because I will quite often work out before I go to school. So I'll drink a good litre before I even go to school. On those days, I sometimes crack and go early. But most of the time, yeah, if I don't work out in the morning and haven't drunk a litre and I've just had my protein shake on the way to work, because we've decided that's like the only way you can get to work and have breakfast, then yeah, that would be the only, and then that would be, I'd have a drink in the afternoon. But yeah, as soon as school finishes, then I'm off. But yeah, I can survive the day.
Okay, so having having started with lowering the tone, I'm going to maybe bring some classiness back to the show. I don't think before I was a teacher I could speed read.
I'm dyslexic, so I can't speed read, but I definitely can read. I read more education books and more interesting books than I used to read. That's true. I mean, to be fair, I really hated reading being dyslexic as a child, and it took me so long. The only way I got into reading was when my sister introduced me to Jackie Collins at 16, and then I was in and read every single one. I was traumatized by her passing. But I basically just read trashy chick lit for a very long time. And I think education made me realize that maybe I should spread my wings and read other books. Otherwise, I would still be there just reading.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Is it Jilly Cooper's novels that have been turned into a TV show?
Yes, I'm waiting. I kind of do a few months on each of them and then rotate round my platform. So I'm trying and promise myself not to have the same one, to have them all at the same time. I try and be good. So I'm on Netflix for Christmas movies, and then I will go back. I want to watch The Rival. It's got David Tennant in it, hasn't it?
Yes, and he is marvelous. And I mean, this is not the show to be talking about that, because content not for now. Definitely
We've lowered the tone back again. But if you do want to raise your educational reading, then don't forget about that code JCTTR2425 and get your 20% off on your great educational books there. I'm going to raise the tone back up. There you go.
Chicklet not included, I'm afraid, but yeah.
Balanced it. I always like to have two on the go: a proper educational book, so I feel good, and a chicklet book.
I'm about to finish my my Anne Boleyn book, which, I mean, she is my favourite of the wives of Henry VIII. You also realise what an absolute monumental sociopath he. I mean, we all know he wasn't great, and this is a whole other podcast. But it's interesting. You know, she has been misportrayed. So those historians amongst you, or those Tudor fans. Yes, that's been a good read, and I feel I'm digressing.
No, I think that leads on perfectly, because I think an amazing skill that you get from being a teacher and kind of dabbling, covering lessons, teaching, especially in primary school when you're teaching loads of schools, we are great at a pub quiz.
Yes, yes, I'd forgotten about this. Yes,
you need a teacher on your pub quiz team, don't you? That's the only way.
Yeah. Pub quiz extraordinaires, because I've definitely said this to people. I was like, I have few talents, but there is a lot of random stuff up there, from topics I've covered through to just, I mean, primary science is always a good one for random knowledge as well. Capital cities, I'm an absolute pro. Flags as well, pretty good. Stuff that you will never need until you are confronted with them down your local. at Christmas, probably. But yes, I think pub quiz knowledge definitely. And I haven't done a pub quiz in a while, actually. They normally kind of rear their heads again around Christmas, don't they? When everyone's kind of back in town and realizes that they need to do something to.
Maybe we need to get some listeners on, and we should do a TTR Christmas quiz, and we'll quiz people on their pedagogies and see if people can we'll write our own Christmas quiz and see whether people can guess.
Can we have some questions as well, though?
Yeah, fun questions as well. We'll check their core knowledge and their understanding. They can have whiteboards. They can have whiteboards.
Well, I actually, something went blah through my body. Just, cringe. Anyway, Christmas cringe. Yes, Christmas cringe quiz with Hannah and Lucy. I think we need to put a pin in that one. But yeah, pub quiz knowledge is definitely something. Again, is it a valuable life skill? Arguably
I think
not.
so. I think, yeah.
Yeah, why not? So JBL saying, I've become a half-decent comic actor by performing skits in class. I can demonstrate Aristotle's ethics by doing my one-act version of Star Trek. I play all the parts.
I think that is it. Like, you almost become, don't you, an actor, like acting at the front of the class, or as my school calls it, sharking, when you walk around the class and check everybody. Sorry, it's called sharking when you move around the class and like. So you're never in one place and they don't know where you're going to go and who you're going to check. Yeah, I do want to do. I'm like, I'm sharking, guys. I'm sharking. Like, yeah.
You know when I love our profession dearly. I do, but just when you think you've heard it all, sharking.
I quite like it, having previously, prior to becoming a teacher, film sharks for a living. I'm like, this is the one word that I can get on board with that I quite enjoy. I mean, also, don't ruin it for me. Don't ruin it.
Oh no! I definitely take it over slant and other things like that. But because I now have this delightful image of you, Hannah, in a shark costume, just.
Oh yeah. Well, I do still have my giant shark that the kids can actually stand in and wear around my classroom at the back of the room. It's going to have to go in the bin soon, but I don't think I can really take it home. It won't fit in my car, to be fair. It's too big. But yeah, so I guess that's another. I mean, I feel we should address JBL's comment, but also the ability to have amazing arts and crafts skills. So I did not know that I could make a giant paper mache shark that people could fit in and carry physically around. I didn't know that was in my wheelhouse. I mean, I think deep down I really did, but like the actual kind of taking kids' ideas and being able to make costumes and make things happen is just, I would never do something like that normally.
I made myself into a cupcake once. I
those cupcake dolls that fold out and then you pop out.
Not quite that good, but I basically kind of created the sort of cupcake case around myself. You know, that kind of, I don't know if it's corrugated card.
Yeah.
It's always in school. It's never used for anything else. I'm like, that would be a perfect cupcake case. I don't know what I've been doing, whether I'd dreamt it. I don't know. Anyway, that was, and then I had, and then my body was the sort of the cake, and I had kind of sprinkles on my t-shirt, and I had kind of sort of netting around me to kind of floof it out a bit, and I'd sort of stuck sprinkles all over myself, and then I had a little hairband that was kind of the cupcake topper, and it worked.
I'm very impressed, Lucy. God,
and I still think paper mache life-size shark tops cupcake costume.
What do you think? That is another skill, isn't it? Like the fact, like teachers would be the best at fancy dress parties, because we can make something out of nothing, and like we can be quite creative. I do remember going to a Pacific fancy dress party where I just spray painted myself gold and spray painted some rocks gold and stuck them to a shovel and put a head torch on. I was a gold digger.
That is brilliant.
That's a really good one. Like being able to come up with a fancy dress costume as a teacher, I think, like out of literally nothing, is good work. And also I feel like I'm passing that down to my son. My son, like, bless him, everyone else goes in these beautifully bought costumes for World Book Day. Not my child. I'm just gonna make him something. Made him a dinosaur costume and then gave him a blow up globe, and he went as the dinosaur that pooed a planet. That was my favorite. I also did him a duster, and he went as the tickle monster from his favorite book, which was quite cute. But yeah, I think, like, as teachers, I'm not. We're also a bit tight, aren't we? I'm not spending money. I will make something.
We're resourceful. We're not tight.
Resourceful. That's the word. Sorry, not tight. Resourceful.
Hannah's like, I'm damned if I'm getting that costume from Asda down the road. No cereal boxes. And
I will spend 10 hours and I will make something. It's fine.
I will use 2-year-old Christmas wrapping paper if I have to.
But it's also the fact that, like, quite often SLT or somebody in the school will pop down, can you just make this? Is this possible? And I'm like, I don't think you know how many hours that's going to take me. But yes, it is possible. And then some. Hence the giant TTR radio costume, if anybody has not seen that one.
Where is that now?
I think it's in Tom's house somewhere. Probably his attic if he got it through the gap.
I wonder if that will make a resurgence at Bet next year.
Oh, because we need to get you in it.
Yeah.
Seema didn't quite get out the bottom.
I still can't believe that you made that. So I'd forgotten about that. And didn't you have boppers as well?
Yeah, I made TTR boppers. The things I'm capable of. I think it's passed down from generation to generation. Obviously, my mum was a teacher as well. She was fully involved in making that. I don't even know, can't even remember how many hours it took us. Quite a while we had to design it. I had my textile teacher sublimating all the stuff on for the boppers. I then had to go and buy all the fabric. I luckily found fabric with sticky stuff on the back, so that made my life a bit easier. But that was probably easily like a good 10-hour construction. And then even then I had to take it in pieces and put it together when we got there because of the train. But yeah, I was like, I love TTR dearly, but I'm not wearing that all the way down from Norfolk on the underground. No. I did get a very nice patronising laughing pat from Michael Rosen when he just couldn't stop, kept looking at me, went, and we'd like stop and then look back and he was like, just didn't know.
You got acknowledgement from Michael Rosen. So.
Exactly. Life made.
You know, it's still on my bucket list to meet Michael Rosen. I might finally meet him at Bet in January, but you never know. I don't think I can quite top being dressed as a giant radio though.
Well, I'll just have to come up with something better.
Yeah. We'll put a pin in that, Hannah. We'll talk about this later. But yes, the creative side of it is, I mean, I've always kind of struggled a bit on the art front, but one of my weird talents is I'm very good at origami.
Yes. Like, and I was showing another teacher kirigami the other day, which is the art of paper cutting instead of paper folding, which they didn't know about. And they were like, well, this is genius, because then you don't have all the leftover bits all over the floor. I'm like, I know, this is good. And then we were actually going through the different ways you could make snowflakes. There's like lots of different ways to make different shaped snowflakes. Like, who else has that in the wheelhouse except for a teacher?
I mean, that's a lesson.
Yeah, it is.
Which I'm sure you probably used.
More like a tutor group, or we have an enrichment club, so the art club are doing that. But to be fair, my old tutor group was so obsessed. My old tutor group used to have, and my old school had room competitions for the best decorated at Christmas. Because it was my last one, and they knew I was leaving, and they knew how highly competitive I am. They properly went out. There was loads. It was the computer room because we were randomly in there, and they had all the famous computing people in the times all under the wall, and they all made them little hats and different antlers and stuff and stuck them on there. And they went up first, and even the computer science teacher, who was also the deputy head, did not clock them for quite some time. And then they made snowflakes and we hung them all from the ceiling. And then I brought in a snow light, and then the kids brought me in an Elsa costume, and then they all had finger lights. And then when the judges came round, it was full works, and we won the round. So yeah, it's like, but what other job? So basically, I'm highly competitive. I don't know whether that comes with the job. I think it secretly does. I think you get every teacher has a little bit of a competitive nature. especially like sports day and house cups and stuff like that. I think we all get a little bit more competitive than normal people.
In my last school, I was a house leader. So you think those parents, they're going, come on, darling, blah, blah, blah. Oh, no. House leader over here. When sports day rolled around, or inter-house dodgeball, whatever it was, because I was crap at sport at school. And so as I've got a bit older and a bit fitter and kind of figured out I'm reliving it now. And so I think some of these kids are a bit like, you okay?
Yeah. Like when I started my new school, they were like, what house are you in? I was like, oh, I'm in this house. And they're like, oh yeah, you guys are going to lose. I'm like, no, we'll be fine. They're like, no, miss, your house never wins. And but I went out there as if we were going to. I was screaming, shouting. We made the biggest flag possible. And literally we won one race the whole day. But like, my God, we cheered that race on like we'd won the whole entire thing. Literally, but it was to the point where like the kids were like, Miss has lost the plot, but you know what? We'll join in. And it was quite nice.
I think, and this is going to come back to the kind of JBL's point, but we also, I think we learn we're not easily embarrassed. Like we will make mistakes ourselves, whether it's costumes, shouting and screaming, dances. I've done full on, like almost kind of flash mob style dances with, because last school I was in, we used to do them for Halloween and for Carnival, you have to learn parades, you learn very quickly, like, well, this is it. And if I'm not prepared to do it, how can I expect them to do it?
Exactly that. Like I was at a Halloween party my son went to, and it was in this village hall kind of around the corner from me. And the lady running it was like, right, have we got any parent volunteers? Literally the whole room was silent. I was like, oh, go on in. I was straight in, but it still took like another 5 minutes before anybody else would join in. But I was like, you know what? I was like, no, you know what? I'll get in. Needless to say, the competition was, they then whipped out toilet roll, and the kids had to wrap us in toilet rolls to make us into mummies. So yeah, but it's one of those, like, I do volunteer, I think, for more things, or will put my hand up, will say things, especially on courses and stuff. Like I'm not afraid to say stuff, especially like I've done things online and everyone else has got their like screens off and aren't talking, and I'm not afraid to do that. I've realized that there's only benefits from saying and talking and volunteering, whereas if you just sit there silently, kind of not really paying attention, that you don't really get anything out of it.
Because I know there are the kind of shyer ones amongst us, the ones who don't kind of see it as sort of, see their classroom as a stage as such, or see it as kind of a sort of, everything is kind of a show and a performance. And I'm not saying you have to, but I do think, and again, going back to what JBL is saying, I used to joke with old classes of mine that all teachers are failed stand-up comics.
Oh, I agree. I would love to have a go at stand-up comedy. I reckon I think we could be quite a fun comedy act. But like it is one of those that's a little bit petrifying. But because there's Greg Davies. Who else is there? There's a couple.
Ramesh
used to be a teacher. I think he was a maths teacher, wasn't he? So I think there's obviously something in the ability to kind of stand and present and have stage presence and have those performing skills and projection skills, and kind of having that, like, all eyes on me kind of natural presence without having to do all of that. If you've been in the game a while, you have that natural kind of gathering of everybody's kind of eyes and can hold a room. And I think, especially if you've done like an assembly or something like that, there's not a huge, I mean, obviously massive stadiums there is, but there's not a huge difference between kind of standing in front of a school of 700 kids to standing in a theatre of a couple of hundred, is there really? So it's not that different. But I do think, like, we not only the performing element, but we do definitely get the comedy element as well.
And it's not even like you really have to think that hard. And I think JBL's right. Yeah, frustrated thespians or frustrated. Yeah, oh, definitely. And it's sort of, when it really comes out, like when you start to get comfortable with your class or classes, it doesn't, I find with me, there's a little bit of a warm up, certainly at the start of the year, because you kind of you've got to gauge them as well. You've got to gauge your audience and read the room as well, as we well know. But Oh yeah, I've had some great ones, and and a lot of standing on furniture, which I think I've talked about before, but I think that's more small woman syndrome than being a frustrated thespian.
But I think also if you can hold a room of 30 kids that don't really want to be there and aren't interested in what you're saying, then holding a room of like 100 kids, 100 people that are paid to be there, that must be a piece of cake.
Sorry, I've just been sidetracked by
Yeah,
this.
I just read that as well.
So for those of you, one lad wrote in his learning journal, this is from JBL again, I was amazed when you told us that you were a disappointed lesbian, not a frustrated.
Disappointed thespian.
Yeah, it's like misheard lyrics, isn't it? It's great. I would love to say that one of my talents is music and singing, but sadly, I wish I could sing. I feel like as a teacher, that'd be such a lovely thing to have.
Well, I don't know whether I can sing. I've never done karaoke or anything like that. I was in the choir at school. I secretly like to think I can sing, but nobody's really heard me. But they heard me this week, Lucy. My whole of Key Stage 3, we had to walk down and we went to a Remembrance Day service in the church. And we filled the church, and I don't think nobody had pre-warned us that there would be singing involved. And all the words were up on the board, and the kids kind of all froze and didn't sing. And for me, Remembrance Day is a really important day because my friend David was killed in Afghanistan. So for me, I'm like, I can't stand here and not honor him and sing the songs in this church on this day. So I went for it, and I full pelted my little pulmonary embolism lungs out, so there's lots of odd breathing, but I was like, I can only hear myself and nobody else, and there's like hundreds of people in here, and to the point where somebody in the staff room went today, oh, you were really going for it on that singing, weren't you? I looked over and you were pelting it out, and I was like, I don't even know where they were, but they weren't sat near me. So yes, I just, yeah, I think we were saying that, like, we used to all sing really regularly when we were younger. I mean, my school, we had a church and we'd go and sing once a week in church, but assemblies, we had what was called house shouts. We'd have inter-house singing competitions with actions. I remember learning Queen and doing that, and it was just amazing. And what was the other one? I think Belinda Carlisle. I still know the actions to that now. And like, but we don't have that as much in school. So like, literally, the kids froze, and even though the words were on the board, they just couldn't sing. The vicar, bless him, was like, "You may have heard this at a rugby match. You should recognise the tune." And I was like, "Oh, dude, like, they're not gonna sing. I'll sing with you. Me and him going for it." But that was my day. Yes.
No, I do think a lot of this stuff needs to come back, but I also think, again, that's, and it's something I've talked about before with kind of teacher confidence and all the rest of it. Yeah, you have to, I think, whether you're primary or secondary or kind of anywhere within the sort of teaching sphere, you have to, I do think it does teach you to let go, to unclench, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's a really good thing.
There was that, I think he was a teacher that was at Glastonbury and was doing did you see him? He did all the primary songs and the sing-along, and it ended up being like one of the biggest listened to things, and I was like, that's amazing, like we need more of that. And he goes on tour and like people just turn up and go to sing songs together, and I was like, I want to go watch him.
That is the kind of joy we need in this life.
Yeah, that is kind of, we should have a little sing song every morning. I think bring that back, and maybe we'll, like, I don't think the younger teachers sing either. I think they're kind of a little bit shy to kind of do that. I do think it's a skill that we learn through teaching, to just go for it and pelt it, and who cares.
And I think it's sort of more of that. Okay, next one. The one that came to mind for me is deciphering handwriting.
Ooh.
Code, decoding, and I suppose, I don't know how bad it gets at secondary, and I don't know kind of how much writing your students are doing. I suppose they're writing underneath work that they're doing, but I'm sure you've got some spectacularly terrible handwriters. I don't know.
Yes, yes. There are some, and some quite horrific spelling, but I'm okay with that being dyslexic because I get what they mean. I do classically remember one guy though. We were talking about Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night, and he wasn't English and was trying to write about it, and he said that the night was mooning with a K in the night. Had a difficult.
Sorry, I'm just.
She's there.
Well, I've got one for you from early on in my career. I don't know if I've told you this one before already. We were doing Robin Hood, and he meant to write Robin Hood killed a stag, and didn't cross his T. I also particularly enjoy the word country spelt without the O.
Oh, yes.
That's always quite entertaining.
I haven't had that one for a while.
I don't know if we're going to get told. If I'm going to get told off for including that. I didn't say anything rude.
No. We were on the board. We were on the board. I mean, we were talking about OnlyFans last week, Lucy. We're being so well, not this week, the week before. We're being very good. And if you are giggling along with us, that one is definitely worth going back and having a listen to. If you want something lighter for your day.
But also, side note, the things we've been sending each other since that show is just of kind of what you can get away with monetizing is truly incredible. And both Hannah and I are unceremoniously quitting our teaching jobs to sell sweaty socks. Yeah. It's been lovely, everybody. Bye-bye now. Signing off.
I think that is something that we get from teaching, that you get a stronger moral compass, and not like on your high horse, but potentially a little bit but that whole, this is what is morally correct. This is how I need to hold myself. This is how I need to be in public. This is how I should speak to people. This is how although granted, this one they don't often follow. This is how I should correctly and politely word an email. We all know the teachers that don't we? That just go and write in and forget the hello, how are you bit. But generally, we are, I think, better citizens because we can kind of articulate ourselves, be polite, even when necessary, whether it be an angry parent. We have now got that tool that we can keep calm in situations and always be polite, but also morally know what's right and wrong, and for the most part stick to it. But I think there is a time and a place where teachers, I always like to think of it as like a separate nightclub where teachers go to and they all let loose on the last day of term. You know what I mean? Like there's always a Christmas or a summer one where I've always been out in my city and literally the whole place is just all full of teachers, and it's just hilarious because it's only happens twice a year, and it's just 20 different school teachers all in one place, and it's this is the day.
And we never speak of this again.
No. And then the rest of the year we are all prim and proper. So there's the odd slip, but for the most part we are prim and proper and good law-abiding citizens that everyone should raise themselves to.
And I suppose encompassed within all that is learning to have one hell of a filter.
Oh yes,
yeah. And I think that is a life skill as well. I think you need to be mindful of who you're talking to. But I have definitely the inner monologue has not always matched what has come out the mouth, and it's but also the ability. I mean, I don't know if you have this as well, but I am probably a bit of a potty mouth generally. Bad thing to admit, but at school I can just turn it off.
See, I'm the first week back after the summer holidays is my danger zone, where it takes me a little while to come back. And I remember swearing at one child once, but he was in my tutor group and it was only a joke. It was a funny one. He asked for a high five and I went to give it to him and then he pulled away and I went, you little shit. But nobody else heard it except for him and the girl next to him. I was like, I'm sorry, it's the first week back after half term. I just when we swear all the time in the holidays, and they were just pissing themselves with laughter. I was like, you can't tell anybody. They were like, no, miss, your secret's safe with us. And they did. They kept it to the grave. Everyone else in the class was like, what are you two laughing at? You've got to tell us. And they were like, no, won't tell you. And they took it to the grave, bless them. But yes, that's the only time in 13 years that I have properly slipped up and sworn. But it wasn't like I was swearing at a teacher. I was a student. I was just like jokingly swearing.
Yeah, it was just one of those slip moments. But yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, like staff room and all of that's a free zone, but like in class, I don't know, something in my brain just goes, I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's, you know, it's I'm swearing up a storm in my head, but I mean, and I say this now, famous last words, and I'll go in tomorrow and I'll drop an F-bomb straight away. So, you know, I've probably dug my own grave there, dug my own hole. But yes, having the mother of all filters definitely, I think, is a good one. What else?
I would say on that note, like selective hearing. Like I can hear like the specific words will set me off, and I'll hear a conversation the other side of the room. Other noises, I'm just like, they're like, did you hear that, miss? I'm like, no, I wasn't listening to any of you. So one or the other.
Yeah, you're tuned in or you're not. And on the similar vein, being able to spot things.
Yes, being observant.
Yeah.
I was out clubbing, and I observed when I went to the toilet some drug dealing going on, and the girl was very young, and I felt like an obligation because of my moral compass being a teacher. I was like, I probably could have taught her at some point. So I went and told the bouncers that they were dealing down there, and all I can remember that he had a black polo neck and a black kind of gilet on. Turns out there was like 5 people with that, and then I ended up kind of going on this secret mission with the bouncers to try and ID which one it was, and I was like, quite drunk, I don't really remember any more than that. I was just being nice. And in the end they asked to search them all, and 3 of them let them, so they stayed, and 2 of them wouldn't, so they chucked those 2 out. But I was like, crime fighting, protecting all ex-students as well. Just like, I think it's that moral compass. But it's like, it was that bit, I would be like, oh, did you notice that? Did you notice that? And my friends would be like, what? No. It's like, did you notice that Passover? Did you notice that? They're like, no. I'm like, I've been watching note passing for decades.
Phones under tables,
a little hand passing of a note from a mile away.
Or even my lot took to trying to use their whiteboards, which is less subtle. I'm like, I can see what you're doing. Like, oh God. Also, the ability to I mean, I say I'm sort of out of touch, but I'm not actually. The ability to kind of know stuff that you probably kind of wish you didn't.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm trying to think of what I know that I shouldn't know.
Like, I'm not being funny. You say skibbity toilet to somebody who does not work in a school, they'll be like, I'm sorry, pardon? What? Those are just sounds. You're just making sounds. Like, no. This is the height of hilarity at the moment.
It's like I know more about Prime and KSI and Logan Paul than I ever care to wish to know.
Yeah, I know, you know, about various games, influencers, and I'm like, okay. No. I just, all of that stuff. Oh yeah, Prime is disgusting.
Yeah. I know how many sugars there are in a Prime. Anna Lucasade and a Red Bull.
Oh gosh.
I remember one kid used to drink like a massive big litre bottle of like Lucasade first thing in the morning, and I was like, you can't drink that, like that's not healthy, and we'd take it off him and stuff, but he'd still have one the next day. So one day I brought in the lumps of sugar and I counted them out. I think it's something like 24, 25 lumps of sugar was in this Lucasade, and I stacked them all, but I had to pyramid it. It was too big to stack, and I was like, this is how much you're putting in your body first thing in the morning. Like that will hit you and you'll be really high and really happy and really excited. And then when that comes out of your system, you're then going to go and massively crash, and you're going to feel really low and really down and really tired and really struggle. And then that's your issue. You're having this constant up down. But yeah, so being able to say in really patronizing weighs how much sugar is in drinks and how unhealthy you are, and know all the horrible facts about certain types of food and sweets. I can, strongly say I have that skill.
Also, on that note, the lengths we will go to make a point.
Oh yes. I what is it? Is it point, like evidence prose? What, I can't remember what the English way of writing something. Like I can definitely kind of put an argument together really well constructed with evidence and facts.
Oh yeah. And you know, and there's all, I mean, is there a pettiness to it sometimes? Maybe.
But if it started and they haven't dropped it, you've got to follow that through. You can't just let it go. If they've back chatted, then you are following that point all the way through until they understand they should never have started that point.
Yeah. And I've definitely said multiple times, you will get bored before I do. I can promise you.
That's how, like, I go with when the kids all ask to go to the toilet at the same time in my lesson and they're not allowed to. I'm like, well, I don't get to go to the toilet. I didn't even really go to the toilet when I was 8 months pregnant. I had a bowling ball on my bladder and I still survived. So I've had a kid wet themselves once in my lesson, but it was a genuine medical thing. It wasn't because I didn't let them go. They were a sixth former. They could go. But I said to them, I've never in all my 13 years of teaching had a kid wet themselves. I will take the fact that you will not wet yourself in front of everyone over the fact that over me saying no to getting you go. So if you want to wet yourself, go for it. If you're that desperate, let's play this game. Because you've just had breaks. So if you were that desperate, you'd have gone. And I win that argument quite a lot.
Doesn't go quite so well in primary.
No. It's very different when they're kind of 15, 16-year-old boys just looking to get out and just had break.
Yeah, that one you can risk. With a 7-year-old, would I risk that? No, I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't risk that with my son.
No. But I mean, who the kind of culprits are. I used to have a girl that disappeared for 15 minutes, and it was only when I raised it with her parents where I said, look, I don't know how to explain this to you, but either she is taking the mick and kind of, there's not a lot because I can't leave the rest of them, or there might be something else. And I just didn't know how to phrase it because I can't sort of say, I think your child has a medical issue that you've clearly neglected to deal with. Anyway, it turned out that, yes, it was sort of struggling with certain bowel movements. And then she was kind of, because that grosses her out, she then spent a long time washing her hands. And it was kind of a whole thing. And actually, I became really good friends with these parents on the back of it because they were like, oh yeah, no one's ever kind of, raised it with us, but before, we're so glad you took notice. I'm like, well, she was disappearing for a while. Like, I couldn't not say anything. So that was how did I get onto that? I've already lost.
I don't know, but is that one of my things that you don't get grossed out as often? Like,
yeah,
I don't get grossed out. We had kids the other day bring in their tarantula's skin from when it shedded, and we came around and showed all the teachers, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's nice. You can go now. Like, nothing shocks or surprises me or grosses me out very often. I'm not going to say it completely because there's always a curveball that can happen, but for the most part,
yeah, cast iron constitution. Yeah, although vomit I can't do, but the rest of it I'm fine with. And I think as a primary teacher, you kind of have no choice really. Although I do kind of say a sort of silent prayer every time I get on a coach for a school trip, because I think, oh God, just because there's always one. Although I have, touch wood, been quite lucky in the last few years, but oh no, the absolute kind of dread I go through. Miss, I don't feel well. You're just gonna have to.
I was that kid that I wasn't well before we left, and then we went on the school trip, and then I was sick. My parents were away, and I was at boarding school at this bit, and they gave me a plastic bag to be sick in, but it had a hole in the bottom.
No.
Yeah, But my eldest sister was living in London. Well, my middle sister, but she'd been at the school, so the teachers knew her, was living in London at the time, and they had to call her and be like, "You need to pick your sister up when we get there from this place, and bring her another set of clothes." And literally, they just, my sister just bought a bin bag and just changed me in some alley in London. I was traumatized by that. But yeah, I was that kid. But I didn't get to, we were all going to see a London show. I never got to see the London show. I think I want to say it was Phantom of the Opera or Wicked, but I vaguely remember like I still have not to this day seen that show because I'm still that traumatized.
Oh gosh, what's Fozzie saying? If I lean hard enough, they cave before the tears flow. Obviously joking. I
think that's what teaching changed. I don't think they cry as easily as they used to. I used to be able to I used to have at least 1 or 2 cry a year, and I used to like the fact that not like the fact, but like you could kind of, you knew that you were kind of maybe going on the far end of authoritarian, but actually the kids aren't afraid of anything anymore. They don't back down at any point. I think that's the thing. You have to get bigger and push harder before they kind of even like back down, really. Whereas you used to cry. You could sometimes just say boo, and they would like, or just go, "Oh, that's a demerit," and then one of them would be crying their eyes out. It's like, well, you were doing something wrong. But like there's not as much of that anymore, I don't think.
No, and I think on that note, our adaptability, like we can, because it's never the same, and you learn very quickly. Okay, so and so is having a terrible day, and you just you know what to do.
Yeah. Good in a crisis as well.
Yeah.
I think like I mean, I granted before I was a teacher, I was a beach lifeguard. So, and I've had a few kind of quite serious incidents, but I do think just teachers we're just like, somebody will be like, oh, like my son, bless him, the other week, I think I did talk about this. I got a call from his school going, oh, he's got a head injury. And I'm like, oh, that's fine. Thanks for letting me know. He'll be all right. And they're like, no, there's quite a lot of blood. You do need to come. And I was like, okay, I'll be there. And actually then there was quite a lot of blood. And then I was like, they're like, yeah, you are going to have to take him to hospital. I'm like, oh, I just thought I could just mop him up and leave him there. But no, I did have to go get the car and take him to hospital. And they saw him and they cleaned him, and it wasn't too bad. It was more blood than like the actual injury kind of actually should have had. And then I went and dropped him off to my mum, and then I went back to work really nonchalant. I was like, bye kids, see ya. I know you got a head injury and we've been to hospital, but I've got period 5 and 6 to go teach. And I did. And then, but he bounces back. So he was cooking with grandma and made her take her to the park. And no, I said, specifically for concussion reasons, we're sitting still. Did not happen. But yeah, back to school the next day, and literally the teacher was like, we did not expect to see him today. I was like, he's fine. Look at him. He's absolutely fine. But if he starts feeling wheezy or dizzy, then let me know. I've got to take him back. But otherwise, he's fine. Like, I think we're okay in a crisis, but also we're like more nonchalant.
Yeah, we almost kind of take it to
just dose him up and send him in. It's fine.
But we also do this to ourselves.
Yes, we do. That is a negative. I'm like quite excited that I'll go to a job where if I'm sick, I can just be sick. I just don't do work. Like, how? Like, I'm like, what is this strange, weird life that if I'm ill, I just go, I'm ill, sorry, and that life just stops. I don't have to set cover. I don't have to go in. I don't have to struggle through my day because that's easier. I can probably just rest for a day and go back in and feel fine and produce twice as much work in the next few days. Like, I'm curious to know how this works. Like, if I genuinely am ill, will I then just get better quicker rather than feeling ill for weeks? I'm intrigued to the outside world. No, I mean, obviously I'm still like a couple of months away. What's it like in the outside world?
Tell us everything. Yes, you're going to have to report back on that one.
Yeah.
God. But I mean, I wouldn't say, just to caveat what we're saying, martyrdom is not a life skill, and this is something we talk about regularly in terms of well-being and all the rest of it. you need to take care of yourselves as teachers, and it's taken me a long time to learn this. And the guilt is still there when you have to when you do have to admit defeat, and when you do have to. But of course, as we head into flu season and all the rest that goes with it, we need to just be mindful of ourselves and do that well-being check-in. So you even shocked Leanne there, Anna.
Like this, you're talking to the girl that took her laptop to the hospital while she was having a pulmonary embolism. I was like, I might be here for a while. I'm just going to take it and get some work done because, it's going to be a novelty. I'm like, what is this stopping thing when you're ill? It's going to be.
Hang on, you were in A&E?
Yeah.
In the waiting room?
Yeah, well, this is obviously they didn't believe me because I'm too young to have a pulmonary embolism. So I went the first time and was up there all day, and they x-rayed me, which doesn't show pulmonary embolism, sent me home to then call the DVT line the next day going, I still have all these symptoms. They're like, no, you need to go back. And I went back and so I kind of knew, and they were like, well, tell them to admit you. So I knew it was coming. So I went, and this time they did scan me and did find the pulmonary embolism. And they were like, right, we'll admit you. And then another doctor came on and then sent me home. So I knew I was I was like my third time of going up. So I knew how long I was going to be there for. And then I got sent home. But then I called the DVT going, I got sent home. They didn't change the medication. So I don't know which, I know you said they should have. And nobody's called like they said they would. And they were like, you need to get back up the hospital again. So off I went. So yeah, I was just like, am I in work? Am I not? Am I in work? Am I not? Kind of like, yeah, I'll just take it because I can write my cover. But like, I wish, because reality wise, I think that teacher mode is that we don't realise, we downplay everything, don't we? Like, I was in school when I was having that pulmonary embolism, and I still blame Year 9 period 5 for it, because I remember getting really short of breath trying to teach those. And another teacher came in and went, you haven't got your report written for your ECT. And I was like, I've been in and out of hospital with a broken foot and a DVT. I said, I'm really not feeling well. I feel really short of breath. I just don't have the energy to do it. I'm really not well. I was signed off, but I'm here anyway.
So I can't do that. You were still there?
Yeah, I was signed off for 3 months, but I took a week and went back in, and then got signed off for another 6 months after the pulmonary embolism, but lasted 3 weeks. And one of those was half term, and went back in. But that teacher didn't go, oh, you know what? If you've not been well, maybe you should go home, or maybe you should go to the hospital. It's like nobody kind of stops and goes, actually, because I was having a pulmonary embolism, like I could have died so many times.
You could have dropped in that class.
I was like, I'm still going to work. Can't let those year 11s down. Like, GCSEs are way more important than my life. Because I do
your life, Hannah.
But that is kind of what we almost do, isn't it? We just all just keep going. But yeah, not a proud one.
No. So Leanne is inputting exam data whilst listening. Such multitasking. Why business and industry not want us? Because
that ability to multitask is definitely one of them. Definitely. I am such a good multitasker. I can reply to emails, I can write cover, I can teach a lesson. The amount I can get done in an hour is insane. Like, I can write a whole entire scheme of work whilst teaching a whole full timetable and have that done in a week. Like, the amount that I can do multitasking, I'm quite intrigued, because I don't hate the new job aren't listening. I mean, I'm really slow. I feel like I'm going to have to slow down and work slowly, because otherwise I feel like I'm just going to have a whole day to do something. It's going to be insane. What do I do with a normal whole day? How do I just have one thing to focus on, not like loads. Like, that's for me is going to be so bizarre. But yeah, like I would hire a teacher in an instant, because our ability to work hard and multitask, and the amount we can, because this is the thing, you're planning essentially 4 or 5 presentations a day. Most people in most industries struggle to get 1 or 2 done a week. Like, I can properly present a full thing, start a plenary, all my facts, really engaged, and my outcomes. like I can really, and not to mention scaffold it for all the different abilities, like the ability, like whereas no, I think that's the thing. I think that's why I've got my distinction with my masters. It's because I can present things relatively well because of how teaching it is. Because the apprenticeship was for anybody, but actually, I think that ability to kind of present as a teacher, you can kind of do that. You learn those skills and learn those, and you can kind of think on the spot. And as well, I think that's when teachers are interviewed, that's quite a good interview skill as well, that you're able to think on the spot and answer questions and kind of give evidence. And I think that's something that we're quite good at.
Also, but we're also quite good at, and again, this is not advice, but we have all been known to do this, the ability to wing it.
Yes.
Yeah. Look good doing it.
Like the amount of times I may have read the date wrong and it's not the lesson I thought it was going to be. And then the class walk in and my face drops and goes, I haven't planned for this lesson. This is going to be interesting. But actually, they're quite often the best lessons. And I can, yeah, I do love a bit of winging. And I do find that I've got friends that aren't teachers that I'm like, let's go do this. And they're like, no, I'm not prepared. I can't, we haven't planned anything. I'm like, no, just go do stuff. Like, are teachers more spontaneous? I would say we're quite a spontaneous little bunch. Maybe it's just the art teachers.
No, I think we can be. I think that, I also think there's very much kind of two types of teachers. There's your type A's, very organized, very kind of, what people picture when they're teachers. And then there's type B's who kind of, it does happen, but we exist in.
Are you talking about the maths department?
Oh no, I'm very much type B. Like, I exist in absolute chaos, but it does work. Kind of like you come in and you're like, Christ, what on earth is happening in here? And I'm like, no, I can do it.
Yeah, I think organized. I like to describe myself as organized chaos. Like, I know where everything is, but it may look like a bit of a mess. The same as the lessons, everything is planned out. Like I've said before, you could test me and ask me what I'm teaching for what year group in what week of the year, and I could work it out and tell you right now, like exactly what that lesson's going to be roughly, and I can I've got everything done, so I can kind of wing it. You could teleport me months in advance and plonk me in a classroom and I would be okay. And even like when we came back from the remembrance service and we were early, I was like, okay, now I'm plunked into a classroom and I've got these kids for half an hour that I wasn't expecting to have, and I've got to do something. But I think it comes as a skill the longer you're in teaching, that ability. I think some people don't, and especially earlier careers teachers don't. But I think it's a good skill. But I think it's not one that maybe all people have.
No, but and also I think it's one to not kind of stake your life on it. Like, use sparingly, that one. Know that it's in your arsenal, but don't, because if you wing it too much, then that's not a good.
No, if you're winging it on a weekly basis and you have no structure and plan and you don't know why you're teaching what you're teaching and where it fits within your lessons, then that's not right. You should know why you're teaching and what it is that you're trying to teach, if that makes sense. It shouldn't be I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just going to do something, I didn't have time. It needs to be, there's always time to kind of twist things and add things. Even if you've read something on the news or heard something, you can add it in, but it needs to have context and be relevant and kind of make it good.
Yeah.
Leanne was practice Xmas songs for the nativity to get them to the home time bell. Timing is our friend. Yeah, so like just filling those little gaps. And the best teachers, because some teachers go, "Oh, just read," but the best teachers are the ones that go, "You know what? We're going to do something, and this is what we're going to do, and we're all going to do it together." And actually, they're probably sometimes the kids' moments to best be remembered as well.
Oh yeah, I have so many games and things in my back pocket as a primary teacher. Actually, my teaching assistant, who'd done a lot of work at kids camps, turned to me partway through last year, and he was like, "I've learned, the number of games that I've learned from you." I'm like, "So you've learned nothing else from me." I mean, not that I expected him to, but added a few games to his back pocket. I mean, it's all relevant, really, isn't it? I'm just trying to think what else.
Whilst you're thinking, I'm gonna remind everybody of our lovely sponsors, who is John Cat Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit johncatbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 down on the screen if you're watching us, and you can get 20% off your order. So maybe you're like me and you're an early Christmas present shopper. Then
Oh my God, you're one of those.
I am. I just my city just gets so you end up queuing for an hour to get into a car park. So I need to already it started ramping up. I'm like, I need to get this done so I don't have to go anywhere. Is kind of my thing. But I did think of one others, which kind of links with what you were saying. I think teachers are really good at questioning and coming up with spontaneous kind of questions or kind of that ability to make one thing into a big thing. Like if you've seen something in the news and you can ask them what they think about it, and then you can flip it and be like, but if this changes, what happens? And if this changes, what happens? And if this changes, what happens? And you can kind of end up down a rabbit hole, but actually it's really engaging and interesting conversations. And I think if it makes us more interesting. Like if you're talking to people about life, then or something in the news, or you can just have more interesting conversations about it because you'll go deeper. And also I think we're kind of trained to be apolitical technically, so you have to see everything from both sides, and I think we've got more of a open mind to seeing both sides. Granted, there's the moral compass that's still very strong, but I think we're more open to seeing both sides of a discussion and debating it, and we're quite good at playing devil's advocate. We know Brent is, but that kind of having those conversations and being like, but what if, and storytelling and just making something really interesting to talk about.
Oh yeah, and actually the because I was doing some sort of personal values work and kind of thinking about just kind of reassessing sort of what I think about the world recently, and thinking about kind of things that I love. And actually, yeah, that ability to storytell, tell a great anecdote, find the good in something, or find the funny in something, because without kind of bringing down the room too much, the world is tough at the moment, irrespective of where you sit on that, it's hard. And so, yeah, to be able to kind of rally people and to be able to sort of almost, I mean, I'm not sort of suggesting that kind of living in a sort of bubble is a good thing, but to be able to create that safe space, I guess.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? For people to say how they feel and ask questions and not feel stupid, have that ability to feel comfortable and make a safe space. My students are we're doing I did an artist called Paul Giovanilopoulos. He does one thing in the style of all the famous artists through time, but actually if you look at all the artists he picked, they're mainly old white men. So I've now tried then kind of got the kids to see whether they could work out, and they're like, they pick up that they're all men quite quickly, but not that they're all white men. They're all kind of a little bit distracted by Salvador Dali's mustache. But then we get to the point, then I introduce them to loads of new artists, and we talk about lots of different things, and we talk about the Gorilla Girls, who I love, and they take Botticelli's picture and put the gorilla head on it and be like, do you have to be naked to be in the Met Museum? Because under 5% of the modern artists are of women, but 85% of the nudes are of women. And kind of we talk about that. And then there's another one of theirs that women get paid 2/3 what men do, but women artists only get paid 1/3 of what male artists do. But I didn't realize that I'm teaching this to Year 9. Year 9 have never discussed the gender pay gap before. So I end up going on a little rant and talking about that and explain that, but why, miss? Why this? So then I end up going on a rant about how, men will apply for a promotion when they take 50% of the criteria, but women will only apply for 90%. So not only are we not getting paid as much because we stopped and had children, but we're not getting promoted because we're not applying for jobs. And also there's the unconscious bias that men are more likely to be employed in the first place. So it's and they were just suddenly the questions started firing, and We have loads of different ones. There's Adrian Brandon, who did George Floyd, and he paints him for 1 minute for every year that he was alive, to show that his paintings are incomplete, to show that his life was cut short. And we had Jean-Michel Basquiat, who was sponsored by Kanye West, and when he died, Kanye changed his look to look like him in honor of him. And I'm like, you guys don't know what Kanye West used to look like. Not Kanye West, sorry, Jay-Z. Jay-Z changed, because it was Jay-Z and Beyonce. I was like, you don't know what Jay-Z used to look like. He did not have hair.
Yeah.
Like, he looks like that because when he died, he changed and modeled himself on that, on him when he died, because he owns a lot of his pictures, and we didn't know till the Tiffany's advert they even had some that were secret and stuff. And then I've also done one where we did Jason Decary's Taylor, where we did a statue. He does statues underwater to grow coral, to talk about coral conservation. So I made the kids all design their own statue. What would they pick for their statue for the cause that they wanted to do? And they all had to explain what thing that they were picking for and doing. And it was really interesting hearing all the little things that they were interested in. But actually, it was like this real safe space for them to be like, well, I want to do racism in sport, and I want to do this, and I want to do homelessness, and I want to do mental health, or I want to do anti-bullying. And it was kind of really sweet for them to all kind of open up and have that safe space and that safe conversation. And I think a lot of people do shy around. I think as teachers, we're not afraid of the tough conversations and the tough topics. Like, we will discuss them and we will talk about them. And that's kind of a place. That's the thing. I feel like they're going to see it. They're exposed to it on social media anyway.
Exactly.
If nobody's having the opposite conversation and doing the counter, and I never go, oh, this is right and this is wrong. I go, well, this is what this says, and this is what the facts say about this, and this is where the kind of middle ground kind of is. And I think we're quite good at being diplomatic in that way, but also kind of having that safe space, but also really there needs to be more time for that kind of thing to be teaching our kids, so that they are making the correct informed choices and teaching them how to have those correct choices, because that's, I think, is where the issue is going. We've gone a little bit topic, but they're really different skills. I wouldn't be that confident in doing that kind of thing if I wasn't a teacher.
No, I don't think I would either. And I do think it's important, as you say, that to be able to assert yourself, and to be able to kind of do it in a way where, just because, getting children to understand that, you can have an opinion, and that's fine. And, luckily you are fortunate to live in countries where, you do have freedom of speech and things like that. But also in having that, it doesn't make you always right.
Yes.
Oh, I digress. What else? There's so many things. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think what we haven't mentioned.
Yeah. Has anybody got? Feel free to comment in if you've got any other suggestions as to what teacher skills you have for other life. My teacher skill is that I have the ability to make myself look frumpy and unattractive.
Yes, do you know what? I do think this is a life skill in a way, because
it's a skill I wish I didn't have, Lucy.
No, but the thing is, we have one of those jobs where, you do have to kind of, but the summer is always a nightmare. Winter, I think, is less problematic, because that's just your big jumper and your trousers. Or skirt or whatever. But no, the summer is always an absolute nightmare. So I think the ability to dress for the weather without
the skirt being too short, or the top being too low, or having too much skin, and then having like a good frumpy cardigan, owning far too many cardigans, and having shoes that are smart enough but fast enough to get to duty on time.
Well, you know I will die on the trainer sneaker hill. We've talked about this.
I'm still there. I'm seeing them out to the end. I have actually got an appointment in December to see whether I can get surgery, which is, the pain might stop, or I might then be put on another waiting list for another year. 2 years ago, I broke my foot now, and I'm now maybe going to see a doctor about it.
Oh no! Do you have a particular art teacher jumper, Hannah?
I don't. Well, what? Just like something that I wear. I don't have an arty one, but I have a specific kind of proper granny cardi that I do love. I generally have very, very like floral skirts. My thing is that I'll go for a different skirt and a kind of plain top in my cut. So like I have, and that is one of the things I'm like when I go, I'm like, oh, a lot of these clothes are going to go because actually I don't have to look like this anymore. Like it's like people can see that I have a waist and like a neck. Like it's it's like I don't have to, because that's the thing. I think I'm conscious of my figure and stuff, and I just I'm conscious that I will look at other stuff, and I look at students as well. I'm like, oh, that skirt is far too short. Like, and I can't have anybody look at me like that. I just have to I wear very frumpy clothes because I feel like that's the thing. But then people still think I'm younger than I am. So I'm obviously not dressing too old quite yet. I'm not quite there. But yes, there's going to be some like real classic teacher like dresses and skirts that might go, but also I'm a bit like nostalgic about them. Like I've got like, but the thing is I've still got the skirt and shirt that I wore my very first like teaching job. I don't think I certainly couldn't wear it now that I've had a child and my hips are wider, but I was quite snazzy and quite like young, and pencil skirts and nice pattern shirts and quite trendy to start with. But it's definitely the longer I've been in teaching, the frumpier I have got.
I mean, I can just see your vintage now, how you're going to ideal for the art teacher that wants to, or indeed any teacher.
There are some built-in paint splatters that have not come out.
Yes.
Basically, that's all I wear. Anything with a pattern so you can't see where the paint's been is it.
Adds character.
Yeah. That is my top tip. Teachers, that you wear stuff that you can't see stains on. Like I don't own white clothes. I don't do teachers own white. There was a teacher in our school that wore like basically a cream suit, like cream trousers and cream jacket and then a dark shirt. And I'm like, what are you doing? You can't wear that in a school. Like, what if you sit or brush against a child, like on a seat, or brush against a child? You're just going to end up
or spill coffee, or get pain on you, or a whiteboard marker explodes, or any number of things that can.
I'm like, what confidence do you have in yourself that you could wear white in a school?
That is a bold choice.
Yeah. Clearly not like that long.
Hang on. So cream jacket and trousers.
Yes, with a dark shirt. Yeah. I'm like, I've not seen such boldness in education in a long time.
No, best dressed person was my first head teacher here, who was he just wore the most fabulous shirts. He just always looked, even when he wore tailored shorts, he looked put together. And I'm like, I don't know how you do this. Yes, my mum was always concerned that I'd go to work looking a mess. She's like, you're a teacher and people look up to you. You can't wear a hoodie. I'm like, I'm not wearing a hoodie.
I mean, my mum does occasionally go like, I think that one needs to come out of rotation now. That one's had its day.
Yeah.
You're on it. Like, but I quite like it. It's comfy and it's easy to move around. It doesn't matter. I wear it on my paint days. I think the ability, I don't know what else we've got. The ability to plan ahead, whether it be like I don't know whether I can plan ahead my life though, like I do teaching.
No. Well, I do think there are some skills that like are in the job, but then you ask me to apply them to my life, and I'm like, you made like the multitasking, for example. I can do that at work. Ask me to do that to my life, and I will cry.
Oh no, I'll like listen to a podcast, be cooking something, have something else on the go, and be done. Yeah, I can kind of multitask.
Well, the podcast and cooking is fine, but like actual kind of household chores, that's where the ADHD really kicks in.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can't do one room at a time though. I will do 10 rooms at a time and do like one thing out of each of them.
So like I'll put the laundry in the machine, but I won't turn the washing machine on because then I'll realize that there's some dust over there, and I'm like, well, I thought I turned that on, but maybe I didn't. Then I'll forget it even happened. Oh God, nightmare. Nightmare.
I think I'm quite organised at school, but obviously all my hyperfixation goes on educating the young folk. But I think school trips, and therefore transferring that onto holidays. I think teachers are I've been on a couple of holidays. So the last girls' holiday I went on last year was me and two other teachers, another lady who worked in an office, and then a police officer. But it was the most organised thing you've ever seen. The police officer was the wildest of us all, obviously, but it was quite funny. They're just like the real organised. Right, today we're going to do this. We're going to do this. Well, these are the options for lunch. Where do people want to go? Right, then we've got time for some shopping, and then we need to be back at this time. We'll do this, and then we'll go out and do this. It was very like I'm on the best school trip ever, like doing the things that I wanted to do, but it was also like, right, we've got like, I think that ability to estimate time, like we've got this amount of time so we could do this or this, like, and I feel like that does transfer into my, because when I've got lessons, I'm like, right, you've got this amount of time left, this is what you need to get done by the end of that time before we pack away. I can put that into my life. I'm like, right, I've got half an hour left. I know that I could get this done in that half an hour slot, and that's probably all I could manage. And like that ability to work out how time works quite well in segments.
Yes, but very small ones.
Yeah, really like little, like I've got 20 minutes, like that whole, like, right, I've got an appointment, I need to leave at this time, I get ready, I've got half an hour left, I know I can get this thing done in that slot. That, like,
I mean, yeah, is the whole sailing close to the wind thing ADHD or teaching or both?
Well, I think like I'm one of those people that rocks up to their duty like 2 minutes late, or rocks into school kind of 5 minutes before briefing, because I know that that's how my life works and that's how time works and that kind of thing. I'm not an early to things person, but maybe that's just me as a person as opposed to me as a teacher. But like, I'm like, I know that I'll get there on time. I know that I know that everyone, like, I know that this will start late. I know that will do this. It's that kind of like ricochet of things.
But I think when you've done something enough times and when you can kind of assure yourself that, you know, if I leave, you know, short of something terrible happening, if I leave at this time, I will get there at this time. And I know, and I think the interesting thing about being in a school is, and I think, I mean, I'd be interested to see how you go when you're out of school, because we are so institutionalized. How are you going to cope being able to pee whenever you want?
No. Is my bladder going to be ruined? Like, yeah, be able to drink when I want rather than at certain times. I feel like I might have to write myself a timetable, Lucy.
Do you know what? I think that's what you'll end up doing. You'll end up blocking your time, like your Google Calendar will be mad.
Yeah. Because isn't that what people say? Isn't that a technique that like blocking your time is meant to be help you be? Like, they sell that as a skill, as a life skill for people to be more productive. Basically, it's just teaching.
Well, my brother keeps trying to convince me to do this, to kind of sort of, you know, reorganize my life. I'm like, I can't do it. He's like, well, why not? I'm like, because my life has been so like this for so long. Like, on the one hand, I know it would probably help me, but on the other hand, I'm like, I have so much structure in my job that I don't really want it in the rest of my life, or I actively reject it. I don't know. There's too much psychoanalysis going on here.
We've got a couple from JBL. Oh, hang on. Go for the first one first. We've got most people are terrified of public speaking, so we are useful in many situations. And I do agree with that. Like, we have to stand up and give good speeches. But according to one survey, when it comes to funerals, most people would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy. Public speaking, not death, was the number one fear identified. Just had to give the best bit, but we got to the next one. Thank you, girl.
Sorry, breathe. Sorry, that should not have made me cackle as much as it did. And I'm not laughing in the face of death. Please don't.
I like the little not death part. Just check it. Yeah. Just reiterate it.
In case you weren't clear. Yeah, I think a lot of people, I mean, because as we said, most people don't get up on their feet and do what we do. And it is, you know, not only do you have to plan those shows or write those shows, if you like, you then have to deliver them for 6-ish odd hours, not to mention all the other stuff.
And it was quite interesting. And I was first starting teaching, I was part-time, so I was teaching like 3 days a week, but I was also still visual merchandising at Zara, and I got asked to present a visual merchandising presentation at Olympia in the big stadium in London, where there was a fashion event. It was one of the buying events where basically companies go and buy their stock for their stores. And I had to do it on this big platform and this big stage. And I wasn't like, I think there was like hundreds of people there. Like, I wasn't as scared as I thought I would be. Obviously, I was still quite young, but I think teaching just prepared me for that. Like, I was quite okay standing up and presenting I was well out. I don't know how on earth I got invited to do it, but I was well out of my depth. But I was like, you know what? I can stand up at Olympia and do a presentation to people in the industry that I do part-time on the side of my teaching job. I had done it full-time before I got into teaching. I was but I think it just gives you that ability. Even if you are really nervous, you can't show it. And I think that's another skill. We're quite good at faking it until we make it, or not letting on how we're feeling. Like, you can't let the kids know you're nervous. You can't let them know when you're having a shit day. You can't let them know when you're like actually really happy either, because but like, I remember especially like teaching during my divorce and during the state, like the parts of my abuse and stuff, but I'm going and crying in cupboards and coming out and teaching, and like, I don't like, other than bar one or two kids occasionally walking in when I was on the phone and full blubber, I don't think any of the kids had a clue. They just thought I was always me. I was always switched on. And I think that's quite hard, in the fact that kids need to know that you're human as well. And it took me a while to realise that actually you can let the kids know when you're having a crappy day, and that's normal and things. But I do think as teachers, we're quite good at bottling things up and putting a facade on. And I think sometimes that transfers to our personal lives as well. We're not very good at letting people in and letting people know when we're struggling. And the same as in school as well. Not the colleagues, not telling them when you're struggling, battling through things. Like, if you're struggling with a deadline, the odds are that everybody else is as well. And actually, this is just an unreasonable requirement of SLT. And if actually everybody spoke and went, we can't get this done in this time frame, you need to give us time to do this, then that as a collective voice, you'd have a better kind of outcome. But we don't talk about it. We just get it done at a detriment to ourselves quite often, and just we don't talk and don't let other teachers know when we're struggling, when we really should.
I agree. And I think that we need to be better at advocating for ourselves and ensuring that those of us who've been in the game a bit longer, hiccuping partway through a sentence. And, those of us who have been in the game a bit longer, making sure that those who are newer to it are aware of this and are aware, that, sometimes it is okay to stop, and it is okay to have an off day. And it's, you can only wear the mask so much.
I completely agree. And that's the thing, like, teaching is so much harder than the outside world knows, but actually there's so many things that you kind of gain from it. And I think also, like you said, like that kid that you said at the start that you didn't have the best relationship with, and then it developed and you almost cried when you saw them. I think that's one of the best things about teaching, is that we don't give up on people. No. Like, we can see potential and we're good at lifting people. Even if we don't necessarily do it with others, we should do it more within our own profession.
Yeah.
But actually that ability to not give up on people and to always be there and kind of keep going is kind of something that I think that is a skill that we don't use enough of, but we all do on a daily basis for our kids. But actually we should do it for ourselves and our friends and our colleagues as well.
Do you know what? I think this evening we've done a better job than that whole DFE get into teaching ad nonsense that drives me nuts every time.
Exactly, they just should play us as an advert.
I think the fact that we have spent almost 90 minutes talking about, I mean, some perhaps more valuable life skills than others. I mean, I do think the pub quiz one is the winner in all of this.
100%.
But I do think that, yes, we are going to be, look out for our advert for Get Into Teaching, not sponsored by the DFE, probably. And if you're listening, don't get cross with me.
But yeah, we've and if anyone is early birds on their Christmas shopping as well, don't forget you can go visit johncatbookshop.com and use our lovely code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order, because we all know that actually the way to survive teaching is to continue professional development, whether that to listen to one of our amazing podcasts and join in and chat, or maybe you want to come and be on one of the shows as well. You can always message us and let us know if you want to be on a show, because it's great to chat to teachers in the classrooms, but also it's just great as teachers, whether you're reading and developing yourself or whether you're listening and joining in. But we're a strong community, and actually it's we love the job, really. Like I'm not completely leaving education. I'm still going to be kind of doing stuff for schools and with kids, so I couldn't fully leave it, but I'm very excited to pee when I would like to.
Just quickly before we go, I believe Catherine Tyler is on after us this evening. Am I right in thinking that? I
believe so.
Yes, so she'll just be getting started momentarily, so we should probably clear off and allow that to happen. Thank you to those of you who have tuned in. Thank you, JBL, for saying that teachers obviously can be great broadcasters as well. I think that's playing into our whole thespian comedian thing. But yeah, we will do this all again very, very soon. So thanks, Hannah. I've had a laugh. It's been great.
Bye-bye, everybody.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.